Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the weekly report. The real January 6th coup. In my first column, after the events of January 6, 2021, I criticized those who called the protest a coup, pointing out that some of the same politicians and bureaucrats denouncing the ridiculous farce at the Capitol as if it were the equivalent of 9/11 have been involved for decades in planning and executing real coups overseas. In their real coups, many thousands of civilians have died. The media at that time played up the violence committed by a relative few at the protest to stoke a national outcry and demands for justice. More than 1,500 Americans were charged over the incident, and nearly 500 were imprisoned, including outrageous prison sentences for relatively minor crimes like entering the Capitol building through doors opened by the police and filming the event. While most Democrats and Republicans in Congress harshly denounced the January 6th insurrectionists, a few members displayed the appropriate skepticism over accepted government narratives. Representative Thomas Massie, for example, was relentless in his search for answers to a simple but critically important question. How many of the insurrectionists were actually undercover FBI agents and other law enforcement officials, and what role might they have been playing in inciting the violence? Massie grilled then Attorney General Merrick Garland several times, but Garland would not budge. He refused to say whether there had been any undercover federal agents in the crowd, though, of course, he must have known. Last week, we learned a little more of the truth. With the release of the FBI's long-lost after-action report, we now know that more than 250 undercover agents were in the crowd. According to the report, they were given the roles including crowd control that they were not suited for. Some agents cited in the report complained of political biases in the Bureau against conservatives. What other tasks might have been given to a politicized FBI undercover team? In addition to the undercover agents, there were more than 24 paid informants in the January 6th crowd. Representative Barry Loudermilk, a Republican of Georgia, who chairs the subcommittee investigating the matter, asked an important question. With that many paid informants being in the crowd, we want to know how many were in the crowd, how many were in the building, but also want to know, were they paid to inform or instigate? Were they paid to inform or to instigate? That is a good question. We do not know that the event was used by the incoming Biden administration to demonize and persecute the political opposition. There is no telling how many Americans would have liked to use their First Amendment to guarantee of the free speech to criticize the Biden administration, but were silenced by fear of persecution or worse. It's easy to conclude, seeing so many arrested and handed long sentences for nonviolent crimes, that it's better to keep quiet. At the time, the U.S. was still in the grip of COVID tyranny, where speaking out against the science could get you canceled or worse. This was another way to silence people who were not going along with the program. In the end, January 6th, 2021 was a coup of sorts. It was a coup against the First Amendment The lesson for all of us is that if we do not regularly but peacefully exercise our First Amendment guarantees, we will definitely lose them, regardless of who is in power. Thanks for listening.